Welcome to today's episode of Decoding Mastery. We are excited to have a true master of the stage with us, Roit Feldenkreis, an internationally renowned orchestra conductor with over 20 years of experience captivating audiences around the world. With a deep passion for music and a distinguished career leading some of the world's finest orchestras, Rohit brings a unique perspective on the artistry, dedication, and emotions behind every performance. We are excited to explore her musical journey and learn what it takes to lead an orchestra to greatness. Stay tuned for an inspiring conversation. Hi, Rohit. Welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much. Hi, Vibhor. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Wonderful, wonderful.
So nice to know you. Uh, you are an international orchestra conductor, and you are, I think, in this business for last 20 years, more than 20 years.
Yes, something like that.
That's great. So, how your journey started, Rohit?
How did
Like
my
it
journey, my musical
started,
journey?
yeah, musical journey.
Well, I started as a singer first. When I was 8, I started singing, and then when I was 15, I joined a very famous children's choir in Israel, and we had the opportunity to perform all around the world. We worked with leading orchestras, opera houses. We performed for prime ministers, presidents. It was really exciting. And in those years, I started thinking that it would be really interesting to go up onto the podium and see how I can conduct the pieces that we were singing. So from that time, I discovered that, okay, although choral conducting is really interesting, for me, the entire experience of having, the orchestra and the choir and the soloist, everything together is something that really, gives me great passion. So that's how I decided to start and pursue this career.
That's great. So you started at the age of 8, and you got the
Yes.
opportunity to visit other countries and perform, and then you like this orchestra, and you wanted to go to the podium. Oh, that's great.
Exactly, exactly. I saw, the greatest conductors,
Okay,
on the podium, leading us and conducting us as the choir, and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. That's my
super.
passion.
So you found your passion very early. The very
I
fortunate people,
did, but I
yeah,
fought it. I
because
fought
I know.
against it.
Okay, you fought against for this passion. So you are from a musical family?
No, I'm actually not. I don't
Oh,
have any musicians in my family. They're all very talented, but none are musicians.
okay.
So yeah, that was a struggle because I didn't have any connections. I had to do everything on, from scratch
From
completely.
scratch. Superb. And it was not easy. Mm,
No, it wasn't easy and it's still not easy, it's a career path that
right.
actually picks you, if you pick it and you can do something else, better to do something else,
Yeah.
but it actually picks you because you can't let go. You can't do something else
Yeah.
and leave it behind.
That's great. So when did you get your first break, which changed your, like you can say, which set your career
What
as
changed
a
or what?
conductor, as an orchestra conductor? Yeah.
Well, I think my career started when I finished my undergrad
Mm,
degree, and then I asked myself whether I really wanted to pursue this type of career.
mm,
And after 3 years break that I was working, but I hadn't really decided if I'm going to do this, professionally for full time. I decided to enroll in my master's to do my postgrad. And ever since then, I had this kind of mindset shift that I told myself, listen, if you want it, you have to really, really work at it. So this means um, getting used to receiving lots of no's, you know? You
Yeah.
get so many no's before you get a yes as a
Yes.
performer, especially in a field, there's one conductor on each orchestra. So you have
Okay.
80, 100 musicians, but you're just one. So it does take a bit of time for orchestras to invite you and to see that you can actually, maintain and lead the orchestra in a full concert. It's a huge responsibility. So you have to get accustomed to hearing lots and lots of no's if you really want to be a musician or any type of performer, as you probably know.
Yeah, that shows your determination, passion about your music. And as a conductor, you wanted to pursue it as a career. So there were any female conductors because at that time, I think there are not so many female conductors. Generally, most of them are male conductors. So
Yeah,
you also faced this kind of issue? Okay.
definitely. When I started out, I did not even have, one role model that I could look
Oh,
at. There were a few around the world, but it was a different time because we didn't have social media 20 years ago that you
right.
can just see who's leading that orchestra and you can just message them or follow them and see, follow them for inspiration. So when I started out, I felt really, isolated in the field. Nowadays, it's better. There are quite, a lot more female conductors out there, and it is slowly changing. It is so slowly changing. I think it will take another 10 years or so to reach, the actual level of equality that we deserve and we want, because nowadays still most of the A-list orchestras do not have female music directors, only male. So it is, I mean, we are making improvements. We are making improvements, and I try whenever I work with young conductors, especially female conductors, to give them extra mentorship, extra guidance, because it is a crazy world out there anyway,
Yeah.
for everyone. So we must do what we can.
Yes. So who were your inspirations that time when you started?
Um, well, that's a good question. I think I can divide it in two. I had some of my most inspiring conductors that I really wanted to get to know are, the conductors that we worked with at the Israeli Philharmonic Orchestra, is at the Israeli Opera Choir. So I saw these people, on a daily basis, and I was just watching how they worked with the orchestra, and I attended as many rehearsals as possible. And also in the academy, in the music school, we had lots of conductors coming in, giving master classes, things like that. And I did, once YouTube went on, I did started watching, as many videos of the greatest conductors, the ones who aren't living anymore, but, have their legacies. So in that sense, I had many inspirations, I had quite a few. But on the other hand, very few people understood the path that I was going through. So that was more difficult. I think for me, I tried to really connect with some of my female professors,
Okay.
and some of the male professors that did really believe in me, that told me, listen, you have to do it, it's fine, you just keep going and don't give up. And so I had a few like that, and every time I encountered someone who made me feel like, okay, you belong here, you're here to stay, it's great. So I tried, to be as receptive as possible of their guidance, because it's not an easy thing to find someone who really wants to mentor you. So when you
Right.
do find it, it's something that you have to hold on to.
Yeah, very right. So when did you start your formal training as a conductor, orchestra
Well, my
conductor?
formal training, let's see. Yeah, 20 something years ago,
Okay.
I started my formal training. Yeah, and I finished it, let's say, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago.
Oh,
Yeah. something like
Okay.
that. Doing, the all the well, the undergraduate, the postgraduate, everything, and also master classes
Mm.
globally with different conductors, competitions, things like that. But at one point, I said to myself, okay, so I mean, I we can always continue to learn, but at one point or another, you have to really try and find your own voice as a musician, as a performer. And no one can tell you, okay, so you should do this phrase, this musical phrase like this, or you should conduct it this way. This is, part of your training. And
Right.
we as musicians, from a young age, we're really accustomed to do what our teacher says exactly and not, move even an inch left or
Right.
right. But at one point or another, I realized that, okay, I have the training, I have, quite a bit of knowledge. And if I don't know anything, I can look it up. But
Yeah.
now it's the time to go back in, to see how I can really express myself as a musician and to find my own voice. And
Right.
that takes time. That takes quite a lot of time to really be able to come and give your true colors to the orchestra and not something that you learned from someone else, because that doesn't work.
Right. So you are very passionate. You are a fighter. You have gone through many no's to achieve your
Yeah.
dream. So what kind of Roy, what kind of habits and what I say that what kind of rituals you followed when you started your training, whether it's uh, during your school days, when you were inclined towards music, and when you started your formal training, what kind of rituals you are still following? So before you go to a performance, any new performance. So, and second thing, what kind of mindset you have developed in all these years whenever you go for a new performance?
I think, well, I don't have specific rituals, but my body
Okay.
really dictates what I need during a concert or during days of rehearsals and things like that. So for me, the most important thing is to really focus on the music. So that
Okay.
means taking more time and more time. And even I never feel, I think all musicians will tell you the same thing, that no preparation is enough. There is never
Mm.
enough preparation for a concert. We can always study more, we can always practice more, we can always prepare more, but at one point or another, you just have to go for it. So I try to treat my score like the Bible, actually. So for me, the score is something that is sacred, and I try to really dive, deep into the notes
Okay.
and try to understand what the composer meant or what the composer might have wanted for each section, for each movement, for each piece. And this gives me, it's a long process, obviously, but when I get
Right.
to a point that I understand what I want, how I can express what I believe to be the composer's wishes,
Mm.
this gives me clarity. So when I'm not sure of something that is happening, when I feel my body stressed or things like that, I always go back to the actual music. So I
Okay.
open my score and I look at it, and this gives me this sense of grounding. you know it gives me a sense of grounding when I look at the notes, I look at what's written there, and I say, okay, so just go back to the music. If you feel stressed, if you feel unsure, go back to the phrase, go back to the melody, because
Mm.
these are things that will never stress me out. These are things that ignite my passion. So for your next question, like what do I do on a day of a concert, that was, I think.
Yeah,
uh,
for whenever you're going for a performance, so what kind of mindset you have that time? What you do especially to develop that kind of that you have to perform and with full confidence, without any hesitation, without any doubt.
I think it has to do with two things. One is forming a really good relationship with your musicians. So
Yeah.
that is it's a crazy profession because usually we come as guest conductors. When we guest conduct, we
Mm.
arrive at the orchestra usually 2 or 3 days before the concert. Just that, you know. We
Okay.
have only 2 or 3 rehearsals before a huge concert. So it's really,
Oh,
really fast. So for me, the thing here is about, building that trust, building that connection with all the musicians in the orchestra. And this gives me the confidence that when we all arrive, on the day of the concert, we have that connection already established and we are free to really perform music, to really make music together, not just, go through the motions of getting everything right. Because, I mean, we're not computers, we're human beings. And I might take one interpretation a day before and I might get up a bit differently that day or something might happen and my interpretation would change a bit, and that is the magic of performing live on stage. There's never
yeah.
the same performance day after day. So that's one part, and the other part is the mindset, let's say, practice and the mindset, um, routine that I do with myself, by
Mm.
myself, before I get on the stage, before I go on. And it has to do with two main things. One is to really maintain my cool. So above everything else, I try to be, let's say, like even computer focused,
Yeah.
really, really, really focused, just I don't see anything, I don't hear anything else but the music that's in front of me,
Mhm.
the score that's in front of me, the musicians that play, and I react. So I
Okay.
really shut everything else out completely, completely. I just say, okay, so from this moment on, I only see Beethoven, I only see Strauss, I only see Tchaikovsky. Nothing else is on my mind. So I really try to clear my mind as much as possible to just, really go like, when a horse is in a race and you have these little eye things
Narrow
on each
focus, you have to
side.
focus. Yeah. So how are you able to do it? Because there's so many distractions, so many gadgets nowadays. It's not
Yeah.
easy. 20
No,
years
it's
back
not
it was
easy.
easy, but nowadays it's not easy. Yeah.
Yes. So I don't say that, well, I do go on social media sometimes before.
No, you do any kind of exercise, any kind of meditations, or any kind of physical workout to
Well,
maintain that.
usually before the day of the concert, usually I try to conserve as much energy as possible. So I try
Mm.
to rest as much as I can and only do mind exercises.
Mm.
That means sitting in front of my score, looking at the notes, and really addressing the key transitions, usually the key
Okay.
parts that I know I will have to be extra focused on. So what I usually do, I sit with my score. I just, slowly, deliberately go through the music. If the concert is in the evening and I have the entire morning to myself,
Mm.
usually or we have a dress rehearsal before, I take that time to slowly and deliberately go through every single piece,
Okay.
and but try not to move at all, because
Okay.
I have to stand for about 2 hours on the
Right.
podium and really conduct physically. So it is quite, it's a workout.
Yes.
So
Self a workout. Yeah.
exactly. So I try to really maintain, my cool, and to hydrate, to eat really, good things, but not too heavy. So just really to be the best that I can be and energized when I get to the actual hall. And the other thing is just, to really maintain this type
Mm.
of concentration that you say, okay, no matter what happens, I'm as calm as a cucumber. I just cannot lose my cool because 100 people are relying on me to maintain that cool. So these are the exercises that I go through, and
Right.
also presence And when you get up on the stage, you have to really expand. You have to work on your presence, to be able to lead your musicians, that everyone will want to follow you, and that the audience will feel this magical energy as well.
Right, right. So it's required a lot of mental exercise as well as physical exercise to
Yes.
perform there, because it's a
Oh
2 hour,
yeah.
at least 2 hour work there. You have to
Yeah.
perform 2 hours standing there, and you have to. I have seen conductors like moving their hands, though I don't understand the language, but it's very, really, it's a very, very tough job. It's not at all easy. Yeah,
No, no. I mean,
yeah,
you do need to be quite fit,
yeah,
and you have to maintain, your body in a good shape. Otherwise, you will really, it's quite difficult because,
yeah,
you get tired instantly.
yeah. So, what do you think, Roy? What is the most crucial skill for a conductor to learn and master?
What types of skills though? I mean, we have to have many.
Yeah. But what is the most important, that what is the most crucial that you have to work right from the beginning? Okay. Uh, like I
Okay.
understand that building rapport with the orchestra team, that is also very important. Okay. Then not losing your cool if something unexpected happens there,
Yes,
especially in the live performance, that is also very
for
important, that you have to
sure.
be narrow focus. But for you, according to you, what is the most crucial skill that you have to learn and master?
I think the most crucial thing here is to really know who you are, why you want to perform in a certain way. So, I mean,
Mm,
you have to really know yourself as a person to really come in the most authentic way. And then you can really try and convey everything to the musicians. So basically, it's about really knowing who you are and how to, let's say, to put your message out there to your musicians so that they react and that you inspire them. Okay.
mm.
So this is the most crucial one, but I would add that you have to be a very good you have to be very good at reading people and understanding the psychological side of things, as
Okay.
a conductor, because you have to lead so many people during such a short time that if someone isn't on board, someone isn't liking what you're doing, it can
Mm,
affect everyone else.
right.
So when I get up on stage, I usually like scan, the entire orchestra to see who's not sure of my leadership yet because they don't know me, who's sure and they're already on board because they like my style, and who really doesn't want to work with me but has to.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah.
my challenge is to get everyone inspired and motivated so we can really do this together.
So communication is very important in your
Yes,
job
above
duty.
everything else, exactly.
Communication, how to communicate to others, and also to understand their, learn studying their body language. Who is with you, who is not, who is bit resistant towards your style. That is very,
Exactly.
yeah.
Communication here is key, and it's all the different layers though. It's not it's the verbal one, but it's the verbal one is really short because we don't have much time to stop. The nonverbal one is
Yeah.
crucial even more.
Very crucial. Yeah. So, Rohit, if you can explain me that when you are trying to perform on a complex music, some complex piece of music, so what kind of special preparation you have to do? Like you are doing these things in every performance, but what special preparation you have to do for any complex piece of music that you have to perform?
Well, that's an interesting question because um, although it might seem that some pieces are more complex than others,
Right.
usually it's not what you think in the audience.
Okay.
So
Okay.
if I would to take, for example, a Mozart symphony, which to the audience might sound not that complex,
Okay.
actually for us musicians, it's much more complex than I would say, for example, Penderecki or any, live composers, living composers from our era, because it requires different things. So actually, I'm sorry to say, but there isn't any piece that is not complex. It doesn't exist. It doesn't
Okay.
exist in classical music. Everything is super complex, but just different types of complex. So
Mm,
and sometimes obviously we have things that are technically more complex
mm,
and others that are musically more complex. So there's a difference. For example, I recently performed a world premiere of a new piece by a living composer, and we had 100 musicians on the stage, and I needed to work on the piece from a very, very technical point of view. From a
okay.
very, very technical point of view, really marking and understanding, the different the time signature was crazy,
Mm,
and everything was insane technically. So,
okay.
but once we got that, musically things were much easier.
Okay.
Whereas if I take any type of Beethoven symphony, the music aspect, as well as the technical aspect, but especially the musical aspect, is insanely complex.
Okay.
So each demands a different type of mindset, but all demand, 100% of our presence and control.
Mhm. So you have to equally put efforts in all kind of performance. Everything
Yeah.
is complex. You can't take it anything lightly. Okay.
No, never.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we would like to, but
So you have to equally work
unfortunately.
hard in every performance. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I mean, classical music is like that, is like that.
okay.
It's nothing is easy.
Yeah. So Rohit, what is required? Because there are so many conductors in different countries, in even in Spain. So what is required to move from good to great? So there are many good conductors, but there are few great conductors. So what is required? What is extra required?
Wow, that is also a fantastic question. I can offer my input, but I don't know if I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
I think first of all, you have to have a statement. You
Hmm.
have to have a statement. You have to really like go deep with the music that you're working on, and to really try and understand how you see it unfolding before your eyes, especially nowadays, because you can go on YouTube and see 100 performances of the same piece,
Right.
and you have to be true to yourself and understand why you would want to pick a certain type of interpretation. And the other is to be someone that really has such a powerful presence, such a powerful personality, that the musicians in front of you, which are all the most fantastic musicians there are. Usually,
Right.
these people, the musicians in every orchestra, they have played the piece numerous times. They
Yeah.
know it inside out, and just using that fantastic experience that they have, and addressing everything like a joint, let's say a joint experience. So
Hmm.
you do have to have this incredible presence, incredible charisma, to be able to take all these fantastic talents and unite them into one performance.
Right.
So I think these two are the top, aspects of how to become a great conductor.
Hmm.
Yeah, probably. And I think it takes a bit of time and experience as well. When you're
Hmm.
very, very young, you think you know what you want to do, but I think something changes after a while. And Riccardo Muti said that the first 10 years of conducting orchestras are pure hell. And it really just gets better just a bit after that.
Okay.
So in the beginning, you don't really understand what he's talking about, but then you do, because it's more than just, I mean, no one needs you to just like raise your hand and count the beat. These are all professional musicians. They don't need you for that. You have to
Hmm.
bring something else to the podium. You have to bring some sort of transformational experience,
Hmm.
musical and also your personality, of course.
Okay. So it's charisma that plays an important role. So if you
Yeah.
want to become from good to great,
Oh,
okay.
yes,
So
definitely,
in
definitely.
sync with all your orchestra team and to give the best performance. Okay.
Yes,
So Rohit,
exactly.
what role does discipline play in your profession, in your kind of profession? Okay. How
I
much you
think
have to
it
discipline?
plays 100%.
Okay.
Definitely. I mean, I think every musician knows that without discipline, nothing can be achieved.
Hmm.
Nothing, actually. I mean, there are so many incredibly talented musicians out there, so many,
Right.
hundreds of thousands, even more. So the difference is when you have this any challenge, any concert, any achievement that you want to really be good at, discipline is the one thing that differentiates your performance from others. And so it's something that we have to learn how to be friends with,
Right.
and especially as conductors, because we have to practice without anyone and
Hmm.
actually without any instruments. I mean, I do play everything on the piano to see, of course, how my score is written and what the composer wanted and everything. But when I actually rehearse with the orchestra, that's the final product already.
Yeah.
If you're a violinist, you have your own violin to practice. So conducting is a very, very lonely profession. So discipline is the one thing that you have to have if you want to succeed, because it really says to you, okay, so I'm super tired. I don't know how it's going to be. I have no idea what I'm doing right now. I just started learning this piece and I still don't know what I'm going to do. Okay, fine, whatever. Do it anyway, you know?
Yeah.
So every time I have to prepare a concert, I carve out um, every day a few hours to practice, no matter what, no
Hmm.
matter what. So, and practice can be sitting at a piano, actually conducting, analyzing the score, listening to different performances, reading about the composer. I mean, so many different things that you
Okay.
need to do, obviously, but you have to do it every single day if you want
Every
to really
single day.
get there.
So
Yeah.
you don't take leave even on weekends. So you practice daily.
Well, as a conductor, I'm the only musician that has the privilege of not practicing if I don't have like a concert, in like this month or whatever. Because
Okay.
if I'm a pianist or a violinist, I have to practice every single day, no matter what.
Okay.
But as a
Okay.
conductor, I don't have to. So
Oh.
when I have, intense periods of time, I work throughout the weekends as well.
Hmm.
But after a concert, I do take some time off. So
Hmm.
it's easier in that sense because I don't have to maintain my technique physically, with my fingers, but it's here in my mind.
In your mind. Okay.
Yeah.
So how has your conducting style evolved in over these years, like when you started this journey and now?
Wow. I think when you start out, any musician would tell you that when you start
Hmm.
out, you try to do like the best that your teacher says. You know,
Okay.
they tell you, okay, so this phrase or this technique would be best for this piece, and
Hmm.
you say, okay, sure, I'll do that. But so when you start out, you are trying to be yourself, but most of what you bring to the table are things that you learn from your professors, which is
Okay.
great because I mean, this is the only way to
Hmm.
really to learn classical music from a young age.
Hmm.
And if you have a good teacher, you're already 80% there. But the 20 remaining percent, um, you have to figure out by yourself. So, what type of body language do I have? Can I obviously I cannot be, a 6 foot man,
Hmm.
it's not gonna happen. I'm me. So how can I be myself, but also be the best that I can be with my own musical language, my own body language, my own interpretation.
mm,
So I think my conducting style has changed, but not that much, you know?
mm,
I do give myself in, recent years, I do give myself much more freedom than I did before, because in the beginning you try to be really strict so that your teacher tells you, okay, now you have to show the entrance for the oboe, and then you have to show the strings, and then you have to do 1 2 instead of 1 2 3 4. So you do all that. But in recent years, I just say, okay, so especially with leading orchestras, they don't need you to be a traffic police officer. They need
okay,
you to transcend and give something else. So I do allow myself every single year more freedom than before, to just really go back to the music, go back to the melody, and see how I build that.
okay.
It's
So now
actually
you,
funny. I've just you
okay,
remind me of something. I've recently discovered this video that I had recorded from my master's, and I
okay,
uploaded it to my Instagram account. And it was interesting for me to see myself conducting, just a few years back. And I actually really liked it. I said, "Oh my God, that's not bad." I thought I would hate it, but yeah, okay. So obviously I changed, but not that much.
okay. So how do you select any piece of music for any upcoming event, any upcoming concert? So how do you select? Is it you who has to select, or your team, or the organizers?
Well, it depends. Usually it's a joint effort. Usually
Okay,
it's a joint effort. We work together to see what type of concert and who the audience is. It's
okay,
really, really important to see who your audience is. And it depends on what city you're conducting in. Is it, a Friday matinee? Is it an evening concert? Really, really depends. So what we usually do is we try to see, okay, so um, we usually try to maintain some sort of thread between the different pieces so the entire program would make sense. So, for example, if I have a concert that focuses on Russian music, I
hmm,
would try to incorporate a few different composers, or maybe a non-Russian composer that has some ties to a different one. So it has to make sense, intellectually as well, but also
okay,
musically. So, and then we choose together, which soloist we want to incorporate and what types of pieces they want to perform. So that's another aspect that we usually have to think about. So if we have, for example, a cello player, we have to see, okay, so which cello concerto are, possible for this type of program. And if
hmm,
it's too much for the audience, if it's too heavy, then we need to change it. So, and always I try to have in front of me, I think for me, it's the most important thing to see who my audience is. What type of concert are they expecting?
hmm,
And to try to give them the most rewarding experience I can. And I also try to incorporate contemporary pieces, as many
okay.
contemporary pieces, because I think it's my responsibility as a conductor that is living now to incorporate my colleagues' works into as many concerts as possible. So I try almost every concert to incorporate any type of contemporary piece. And this is my way of saying, okay, so every audience wants to hear Tchaikovsky and Beethoven and things like that, but it is also our responsibility to expose them to really interesting things that are going on right now, not just composers that unfortunately have been dead for the past 300 years or so.
So how do you
So
approach to interpret their music, Beethoven and Mozart, so who are like that, and so how difficult or easy it is for you to interpret their works?
I think every musician has this special bond with some specific composers, although most of
Right.
us love all composers. I would tell you, I don't have one favorite, but it's something happens in the sense that a few composers you get to perform more than others
Yeah.
because the audience likes them more, or because life just connects them to yours, or I don't know why. So for me, I have a few. Beethoven is definitely the first one. I've had the privilege of really performing most symphonies, most concerti. So when I approach a Beethoven symphony, for me, it's like coming home, you know? And
Okay.
when I start, let's say, working on a different piece by a composer that I don't know as well, then it's a different feeling, like more of a discovery process.
Hmm.
So, like looking for the little clues and to see, okay, what type of the harmonic language does he use or does she use, and what type of melodies and the texture. So it's a discovery process every time. But some composers, for me, are like, okay, yeah, I'm just coming back home and seeing what changed. Even the same symphony, when I do it every year, usually my performance perspective is different. Because
Okay.
I'm a different person. So every composer brings a different type of essence. And when we perform contemporary pieces by our colleagues, that's a whole different story, because you're like, okay, I want this to go really well because the composer is actually sitting there in the hall, and we really want to perform our best for them.
Okay. That's great. So let's talk about communication. So I think what I have learned from you till now is that the most important, most crucial skill is to how to communicate with your colleagues, with your
Yes.
team, with the orchestra. And so it's very important that to ensure that all of them are unified in timing, okay, interpretation, as well as emotions that you are trying to convey through your music. So how you
Mm-hmm.
are able to do that means uh, have you learned that communication as a skill? Have you trained yourself, body language, and how are you able to do it? Okay, of course you are a conductor, so you have to learn it. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Unfortunately, this is not something that is really discussed in the formal training that we have.
okay,
We do work on techniques, of course, how to show the musicians, if it's louder,
right.
softer, and the different entrances, tempi, and everything like that.
Hmm.
But I think it's something that you learn through your experience, and you have to adapt. You have to adapt really, really quickly. So that, I mean, if we say that communication is the first key strategy for conducting and leading people, adaptability would probably be the second.
Okay.
So, because when I show something, the musicians, and I don't receive exactly what I wanted, I understand that there is a miscommunication, there's a gap. So, I need to immediately adjust my body language. And in the worst case scenario, I do stop and say it, the exact words I want to say. But this would only get me 50%, because if I don't show, then nothing would work. I have to show as well as to explain. So I think it's a trial and error process. And for me, I've been owning these skills for some time. I've been every single rehearsal, I usually tape every single rehearsal, and then I
Okay.
watch myself. I watch
Okay.
myself and I see how my body language is, actually. And it's quite difficult to watch. I will tell you that.
Yeah, it's
And
not
we
easy.
musicians,
Yeah.
we do that always.
Right.
I mean, even when I was a singer, I would record myself, and it's horrific. but you learn quite a bit from watching yourself. For example, you think your body language is really open, and then you see yourself crouching a bit, or diminishing your presence. So it is really important to actually watch and see what is going well and what isn't. And so these skills are something that you have to really work on all the time. It never stops, it never
Yes.
ends. And that's why in the past, let's say 7 years, I've been working with executives as well, people that
Okay.
have to do this in the corporate world and
Corporate.
have no training on body language and presence and communication skills. So that's why, I do performance coaching one-on-one and also with teams of executives, because it's something that no one teaches you, basically. You
Right.
have to really work on it and see how you improve.
Yeah. So it's very nice that you are teaching these skills to corporate people because they are also like, it's not easy to understand the body language and it's your profession. So you are very like you are in depth. You are learning these skills and you are every day it's a challenge for you also. Okay. That's great.
Yeah.
So how do you balance technical and emotional elements of conducting?
Well, I think this is actually quite clear, because the
Hmm.
emotional elements are the most important. But in order to achieve them, you have to have technical abilities that are the best that you can have.
Okay.
So it's something like, if you see professional athletes, it's really similar. They
Hmm.
know what they want, they know how to achieve it, but the technicality has to be, in their bodies that well that they are free to really be, expressive and to do these things. So
Hmm.
musicians, we work on our techniques, I think, forever,
Hmm.
forever and ever and ever. It never stops. We keep on perfecting our techniques and really discovering what more we can do. But these techniques are only as good as our emotional interpretation. So if
Okay.
we don't have anything emotionally important to say, then these techniques are just, computer skills. It's not something that really elevates or transforms our experience, not to ourselves as musicians, not to our orchestra musicians, and also to the audience. So when I go to a concert and I see someone conducting really technically fantastically, really amazingly, but I don't feel anything in my heart, well, for me, I've missed the point. I've missed the actual purpose of
Hmm.
making music. So I always, and I think there's a very famous quote by Beethoven. I'm sure you know it. He says, there's no, I mean, wait, let me get it clear. He says, well, a wrong note can be forgiven, but making music without passion cannot.
Okay.
Okay. So
Okay.
something like that. So it is true. We can make mistakes. We
Hmm.
we are humans. We make mistakes on stage. We make mistakes at home. We make mistakes. That's not going to change. But bringing something extra, bringing our soul to the piece, to the stage, to the audience,
Hmm.
that means something different. That means that the experience is not just, okay, let me just check off all these boxes and yeah, that's fine. The performance has been great and we can all go home. No, we have to do something that is different. We have to elevate the emotional experience of anyone who comes to listen.
Okay. Okay. Fine. So, right. So when if you are going to perform, suppose you are going to perform uh, for a large audience, or you are going to conduct, you are to conducting a large orchestra. So how do you deal with performance anxiety? Of course, you face, yeah,
Yeah.
because it's 20
Well,
years, then also it happens.
sorry.
Because even if it's 20 years, then also it happens. So
Yes.
after all, we are
So
all humans.
luckily,
Yeah.
luckily for me, I love the stage so much that I rarely get
Ah,
performance anxiety. I don't have that. But it doesn't mean I'm not nervous. So these are
okay.
two different things. I don't usually get performance anxiety. And actually, the bigger the hall, I'm like, I love that, the
You
bigger
love
the
it.
hall for me, even better. But I do get stressed from specific musical challenges, from specific concerts, or specific pieces that I know require my utmost concentration and my best technical ability.
Mm,
So in this case, it's not anxiety, but it is, I do have that sense of, okay, I'm
mm.
stressed about this part. I know I have to make it from A to B. I know that I have to be super, super concentrated, super focused for this to really work. So when I have these moments of these crazy thoughts, I think two things really work for me. One is to work that part. Sometimes
Okay.
it could be, 10 bars, 10 bars of a symphony, 10 bars of concerto, and do that over and over and over and over and over, like a million times. Because what happens then is that our bodies, our muscles remember. We
Yes.
have muscle memory, and so our bodies, and we can ask any musician, especially performing artists that really have to do entire concerti without the sheet music in front of them. Their fingers are already there, the body remembers.
Yeah,
So for
it's like
conducting,
driving car. So your subconscious mind is actually driving the
yes.
car. So it's
So
the same thing. Yeah.
once you get your body to practice a million
Mm,
times,
right.
even if your mind starts wandering, your
Mm,
body knows what to do.
what to do.
So for conducting, it's exactly the same. It doesn't, obviously, we don't need to do the entire symphony like that, but usually there are a few key transitions in every piece that require a bit, extra technical support, let's say. So for me, it's about, practicing a million times that specific part, but also um, working on my mindset, knowing that when just trying to get my mind to acknowledge that before reaching that part, I will be my utmost concentrated, my super focused mind to this specific area. So
Right.
I would, be able to do it in the best way possible. And when that's over, I can relax for 2, 3 seconds and then do the next one. So
So
it's
you,
a bit,
yeah.
like preparing your concentration in different levels, because you can't maintain the same type of concentration throughout 2 hours. It's not
Yes.
possible.
It's not possible. So do you work on visualization exercise,
Yes,
mental exercise? Okay. And you said that
constantly.
constantly. And you said
Yes.
because your love of stage, love for the big stage doesn't allow performance anxiety. But what about your team members, orchestra? So do you offer any kind of suggestions, any kind of help if somebody is facing performance anxiety before
Yes,
the
definitely.
show?
So I do that with my musicians, and also in the corporate level, because people have to do their pitch, they
Right.
have to command the room in board meetings, so everyone has performance anxiety.
Yeah.
So there are quite a few exercises that we do to really improve our stress levels. So
Hmm.
these are oh my God, I can't pronounce that word.
Visualization. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
And also breathing exercises, and anything, sometimes even, how you approach the room, how you perceive the people in front of you, everything makes a huge difference.
Hmm.
And for me, what works best in that case is maintaining that personal connection with one another, that
Hmm.
we are all a team. We are all here together for
Hmm.
one another. And so we rely on each other. And especially if you're a soloist, if I work with a soloist, my job as a conductor is to really provide them the best case scenario, the most attentive orchestra, the most
Hmm.
attentive accompaniment for their performance, so
Okay.
that they are really relaxed and free
Hmm.
to be able to perform their best. So it's about teamwork, it's about team building, and to see, how we can really thrive when we are really, really stressed. So sometimes one of the exercises I like to do is something that's really powerful, that
Hmm.
is changing the stress, the nervousness, and changing that into excitement, reframing that and saying, okay, so I'm really stressed, I'm really nervous, and saying, yeah, well, the body doesn't know if you're stressed or nervous. We can just call it excitement. And when we're excited, our body reacts almost the same. But our mind says, okay, so yeah, we can achieve something really beautiful here. And that really, really helps for stage fright and, any performance anxiety.
Okay. So, Rohit, so if something unexpected happens during the performance, so what is the first? You said that you have to not lose your coolness that time. You have to stay cool and you have to perform. But when you're performing with the team, so what is the first step that you take as a precaution if something unexpected happens?
Well, usually things happen on stage.
Okay.
um, I think, well, one of the key
Maybe
things is,
maybe audience is not aware, but you know.
yes, exactly. So one of the key things is not to show the audience that something happened, you know,
Okay.
because
Yeah.
most likely they won't even notice.
Ah, yes.
Because I mean, when we're talking about these high levels of performance,
Yeah.
these are all, amazing musicians. We all know our part. Even so, something could happen. Yeah, someone might have a bad day. They
Mm.
might miss an entrance. Anything happens. The crucial thing is to continue as if nothing had happened, and to really, and I speak about this a lot in my lectures. I think the key thing here is to recover quickly,
Okay.
to recover quickly. And that means that if I missed a cue, or if my musicians missed a cue, they know I noticed. I know that when I made a mistake, everyone knows, yeah?
Okay.
I mean, we're all there, we're all on stage, we all notice.
Mm.
But the thing is, you have literally 1 or 2 seconds to go forward and not to be stressed, because then you cannot be able to perform the rest of your,
Right.
program.
Right.
So you have to recover instantly. And when I say 1 or 2 seconds, I'm a bit exaggerating. It's more like 1 second. Okay.
Fraction of a second. So it's like you
Fraction
have
of a
become
second.
conscious. You have become conscious. Now you have to go back to your subconscious. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, you perform with your hands and all like movements.
Exactly. So
So
your
without
mind
thinking
tells
about
you,
it.
oh my
Yeah.
God, your mind tells you, oh, this was bad. I'm so pissed. I'm so upset. But at the same time, you still have to conduct, and it's still
Yeah.
100 musicians are still playing. So you don't have the privilege of, really going and just, starting speaking to yourself in this manner of, oh my God, what did I do? No, I mean,
Right.
literally the show must go on.
Yes. So a lot of
It's
preparation
in
is required. So you have to learn acting skills, a bit of acting.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure.
Okay. Okay. So what is the most rewarding part of being an orchestra conductor for you?
Wow, I think the most rewarding part is the in like this amazing privilege that I have to perform the most canonic pieces of, the classical music history.
Hmm.
So when you take a symphony by Tchaikovsky, or you take a concerto by Handel, or any composer, then this is a privilege that almost no one has. That these geniuses have left us this art that has been keeping us inspired for hundreds of years. And
Okay.
I have the privilege of really going up on stage and performing it live and leading the best musicians in the world through this process. So it is quite, I don't think there's anything like it. And every time I get stressed, that's another thing that really helps me. And I say to myself, listen, you know, this is a privilege. If you don't want to do it, someone else will be really happy to replace you. So
Superb.
you have to get your act together. You have to remember. I mean, I have to constantly remind myself when I'm stressed or when I'm tired, because sometimes we have rehearsals after a 12-hour flight, and we have to be really focused, and that's difficult. It is
Yeah.
difficult. You're tired and you just want to crawl into bed and like, what am I doing, like a four-hour rehearsal now?
Right.
It is really really hard. So I constantly try to remind myself, listen, no one has that privilege. There are a handful of people in the world that have your job and that are actually, able to do this. So this is the most rewarding part. And when we all get that together, when we're all aligned and the audience really, really feels that impact, there's no better feeling on earth, I think.
That's so great. Like it shows how much you respect your profession, your music, your work, that
Yeah.
you feel that you are privileged to continuing this profession for hundreds of years, which is already there. Okay.
Exactly. And
Uh,
also because as a conductor, I'm a tool. I'm
mm,
a tool I'm the connection between the composer, the orchestra, and of
mm,
course the audience, but I'm just a tool. I did not compose these pieces. So I have to remember that and be
yes,
humble always.
very great. Yeah. So, Rohit, last question. What advice would you like to give to young conductors who are just started out? So from where they need
Okay.
to start, maybe they are not having the privilege to learn directly from you and the people who are genius in this craft. Okay, they are living in some other countries. Maybe they are not having those opportunities in their school. Okay, or maybe later on in their colleges. So, is it possible to learn online, or do they need uh, physical classes? Okay, directly learn 101 from the uh, like conductors like you. Do you provide such classes?
Yes. So luckily,
Hmm.
everything, I mean, almost everything nowadays is done online. So
Yeah.
I teach online classes, my one-on-one performance coaching, and everything is done online. Usually, if
Okay,
I have
that's so good.
students here in Barcelona and they want to come in, it's fun. But yes, luckily we have this amazing communication tools and technologies that we take on students from all over the world, and that I'm so grateful for, because it is amazing, that we can connect
Yeah,
this way. So anyone who wants conducting classes, of course, they can reach out. No worries. There's so many ways to do it. So that's amazing. And the other part about the advice, well, I have quite a few things to say. First of all, it's important for me to say that I started with nothing. I have no connections, no musical family. I grew up in a very small village in Israel with no classical music around me. So, hang in there. It's possible to do it. It is possible to do it. What I recommend is a few things. First of all, if you really want to study conducting and you already play an instrument, that's fantastic. If you don't play an instrument, it's time to play an instrument before anything else, because you have to be a musician before you are a conductor. So you can play any instrument, but it's always better to pick one that is either easier for reading scores like piano, or easy to understand the orchestral point of view like strings. Any string instrument is fantastic. If you don't have access to that, then any wind instrument, flute, oboe, anything like that will give you great insights to how orchestras work. And also from that point of view, if you are in a more advanced stage and you want to pursue a conducting career, I would suggest to see where you can find a conducting program or teacher to start with. So if you are young and you still don't, you're in high school or just beginning college, then you can do online lessons and continue there, because everyone studies one-on-one in the beginning before, just in order to really, to pass the exams. You cannot do it by yourself. So I've done it. Anyone I know has done it. You have to work with your teacher in order to be accepted to any type of musical program worldwide. So I would do that. And then if you have access to any major college or university in your area, I would go online to see which types of programs they have, and to start, sending emails and really trying to figure out what is best for you. Having said that, if you are already enrolled in a program and you want to take your career to the next level, my suggestion is to always record every single thing. Record, and then start to reach out to people and start gaining experience. Work with youth orchestras, work with choirs, work with small ensembles of kids or amateur adults, anything that will get you in front of people so you can start actually practicing. Because conducting, you cannot conduct yourself. And when you conduct a YouTube video, it's nice, but the orchestra plays fantastically without you. So it doesn't give you the actual experience that you need. So I do suggest that if you want to gain experience, find any type of ensemble that you can get your hands on, or even form one yourself. And that's what I did when I started. I founded an orchestra, a chamber orchestra in my hometown, and I was the musical director for 8 years. And that really, took me to the next level. It gave me the opportunity to really work on my technique and to invite soloists and to see how it actually is, So if you can't found an orchestra, that's fine. But if you work with 4 or 5 musicians, that's already like an amazing achievement. So, and be super, super proactive. That's the main thing. You have to be proactive. No one will do it for you. No one. Never.
Wow, it was super. It's a master class. I think in this podcast episode was a master class. So
Yeah.
what a great advice for young these conductors. Thank
And
you
they
so
can
much, Roy.
always,
Yeah.
everyone just I on my Instagram, usually people write me questions. Young musicians
Okay.
write me questions on my Instagram, on my Facebook, on my LinkedIn. I have everything. So
You
you
have a
can find
YouTube
me
channel also.
online.
You
Sorry?
have a YouTube channel also, I think.
I
I have
have
seen.
YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, probably something, my personal website, my everything.
So
So
I will mention
what
all these links in the description.
amazing. So if you need to get some clarity, then you can
Mhm.
always DM me. I answer everyone. I curate my account. There's no one else that does it. So I really like to help young musicians. So feel free to write me if you have any questions, and that'll be fantastic.
Thank you so much, Roy. It was really, really, really nice meeting you, and I have learned so many
You
things
too.
from you. Yeah,
Thank you
it
so
was
much,
amazing.
Vibhor.
Okay. So
Thank you so
see
much for
you.
inviting me.
Yeah.
It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Yeah, same here, Roy. Thank you so much.
Amazing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. That was an incredible conversation with Roy Feldenkreis, an artist whose dedication and mastery of the orchestra have inspired countless people around the world. We hope you gained some valuable insights into the life of a conductor and the magic that happens behind the scenes. Thank you for joining us today, and don't forget to subscribe for more amazing guests and stories from the world of mastery. Until next time, keep the music playing.